The planet was known as X427, a name that carried no weight, no history, and no significance, until the first exploratory team landed. They called it Eden at first, a lush, green world teeming with life. But within hours, the name felt like a cruel joke. The team's transmissions grew erratic, filled with screams and static, before going silent entirely. The rescue mission that followed found no bodies, no equipment, and no trace of the team. Only the jungle, dense and impenetrable, as if it had swallowed them whole. X427 was reclassified as a death world, a place so hostile that even the most advanced civilizations dared not tread. But humanity, ever curious and ever reckless, couldn't resist the challenge. The first human expedition was led by Dr. Elena Voss, a xenobiologist with a reputation for surviving the unsurvivable. Her team was small but elite, a combat specialist, an engineer, a botanist, and a linguist. They landed on the outskirts of the jungle, where the trees towered like skyscrapers, their leaves filtering the sunlight into an eerie green glow. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of decaying vegetation. It was beautiful, in a way, but beauty on X427 was a trap. Within hours, they encountered their first predator. It was a sleek, feline-like creature with 6 legs and a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth. It moved silently, stalking them from the shadows. The combat specialist, a man named Jax, raised his weapon, but the creature was gone before he could fire. It didn't attack. It didn't need to. It was testing them, studying them. And then, as if it had seen enough, it vanished into the undergrowth. That night, they set up camp in a clearing, surrounded by motion sensors and automated turrets. The jungle was alive with sounds, chirps, growls, and the occasional distant roar. But the sensors detected nothing. Nothing at all. It was as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by one creature, but by the entire ecosystem. The next morning, they found the first sign of the previous expedition. A piece of fabric, torn and blooded, hanging from a branch. It was a warning, though they didn't realize it at the time. They pressed on, deeper into the jungle, following a trail of broken branches and disturbed soil. The trail led them to a cave, its entrance partially hidden by vines. Inside, they found the remains of the previous team, or what was left of them. The bodies were mangled, torn apart in ways that suggested something far more intelligent than a mere animal. Elena's team was shaken but determined. They had come to study X427, to understand its dangers, and they weren't about to turn back. But as they ventured further into the cave, they began to realize the true nature of the planet. The walls were covered in strange, bioluminescent fungi that pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light. The air grew colder, and the sounds of the jungle faded away. It was as if they had entered another world entirely. And then they saw it. A massive, serpentine creature, its scales shimmering like oil on water. It had no eyes, but it didn't need them. It could sense them, somehow, and it moved with a terrifying grace. Jax raised his weapon again, but Elena stopped him. She had seen enough to know that this creature was not their enemy. It was something else entirely. Something ancient, something that had been here long before the jungle, long before the planet itself. The creature didn't attack. It simply watched them, its head tilted as if in curiosity. And then, without warning, it turned and slithered away, disappearing into the darkness. Elena's team was left in stunned silence. They had come to X427 expecting to find apex predators, creatures that could kill them in an instant. But this was something else. Something that defied explanation. As they made their way back to the surface, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had been allowed to leave. That the jungle, the creatures, even the planet itself, had decided they were not worth the effort. It was a humbling realization, and one that left them with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain, X427 was not just a death world. It was something far more dangerous. It was alive. And it was watching. The second expedition was larger, better equipped, and far more cautious. They had learned from the mistakes of the first team, or so they thought. This time, they brought drones, advanced scanning equipment, and enough firepower to level a small city. But X-427 had a way of humbling even the most prepared. The team was led by Colonel Marcus Hale, a veteran of countless off-world missions. He was a no-nonsense leader, the kind of man who inspired confidence in his troops. But even he couldn't hide the unease in his eyes as they approached the jungle. The stories of the first expedition had spread, and while most dismissed them as exaggerations, Marcus knew better. He had seen the footage, heard the audio logs. X-427 was not a place to be taken lightly. The drones were the first to go. They flew ahead, scanning the terrain and relaying real-time data back to the team. For the first few hours, everything seemed normal. The jungle was dense, but not impassable. The wildlife was abundant, but nothing they couldn't handle. And then, without warning, the drones began to malfunction. One by one, they dropped from the sky, their systems fried by some unknown force. The team pressed on, but the loss of the drones left them blind. The first attack came at dusk. It was swift and brutal. A pack of wolf-like creatures, their fur matted with blood, descended on the team with a ferocity that left them reeling. The creatures were fast, too fast, and their claws tore through armor like it was paper. Marcus ordered a retreat, but the jungle seemed to close in around them, the trees twisting and shifting as if alive. By the time they reached a defensible position, half the team was dead or missing. That night, they huddled together in a makeshift fort, their weapons trained on the darkness. The jungle was silent, unnaturally so. Even the insects had stopped their incessant chirping. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were being toyed with, that the creatures were testing them, probing for weaknesses. The next morning, they found the first sign of the serpentine creature. A trail of shimmering scales led deeper into the jungle, and against his better judgment, Marcus decided to follow it. He had seen the footage from the first expedition, and he knew that this creature was the key to understanding X-427. But as they ventured further into the jungle, the air grew colder, and the light grew dimmer. It was as if they were descending into another world. And then they saw it. The creature was massive, its body coiled around a massive tree, its head resting on a bed of moss. It didn't move as they approached, but Marcus could feel its gaze, even though it had no eyes. He raised his weapon, but something stopped him. A voice, faint and distant, whispered in his mind. It wasn't a language he understood, but the meaning was clear. They were not welcome here. Marcus lowered his weapon and ordered a retreat. The creature didn't follow, but the jungle seemed to close in around them, the trees twisting and shifting as if alive. By the time they reached the surface, Marcus knew that they had been allowed to leave. But he also knew that X-427 was not done with them. Not yet. The third expedition was different. This time, they didn't come to study X-427. They came to destroy it. The planet had claimed too many lives, and humanity had decided that it was too dangerous to exist. The team was led by General Kara Thorne, a woman who had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer. She had no illusions about what they were up against. X-427 was not just a planet. It was a predator, and it had to be put down. The team was equipped with the latest in military technology, including a prototype weapon capable of generating a localized black hole. It was a last resort, but Kara was prepared to use it if necessary. They landed on the outskirts of the jungle, and for the first time, the planet seemed quiet. The usual sounds of the jungle were absent, replaced by an eerie silence. It was as if X-427 knew why they were here. The first sign of resistance came as they approached the cave where the serpentine creature had been sighted. The jungle seemed to come alive, the trees twisting and shifting, the ground itself rising up to meet them. Kara's team fought back with everything they had, but the jungle was relentless. It was as if the planet itself was fighting them, and they were losing. By the time they reached the cave, half the team was dead. Kara didn't hesitate. She ordered the weapon to be activated, and as the black hole began to form, she felt a sense of grim satisfaction. X-427 would be destroyed, and with it, the creature that had haunted her dreams. But as the black hole began to consume the jungle, something unexpected happened. The serpentine creature emerged from the cave, its body shimmering in the dim light. It didn't attack. It simply watched as the black hole grew, its head tilted as if in curiosity. And then, without warning, it lunged forward, disappearing into the black hole. The jungle began to collapse, the trees and the ground itself being pulled into the void. Kara's team barely made it back to the ship before the entire planet was consumed. As they watched from orbit, X-427 was reduced to nothing, a void where a planet had once been. But as they prepared to leave, Kara couldn't shake the feeling that they had made a mistake. The creature had not been destroyed. It had escaped. And now, it was out there, somewhere in the galaxy, waiting. X-427 was gone, but the danger was far from over.